All right, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. This is Dr. Ephraim. Today's date is June 25th, 2021, and I'm saying Ahaya by Yeshem, Yeshua HaMashiach, Baruch Atah Adonai, for now and forever. If you listen to the sound of my voice, clearly you are blessed to see another day, and all praise is due to the Most High God of Israel forever. All right, before I get started, again, hit that subscribe button. And when the box pops up, make sure you hit all so you're notified when I upload a new video. I started a new segment called Real Talk Tuesdays. Uploaded the first episode a couple days ago, so if you haven't checked that out, definitely check that out. And plus, Shabbat services, on Sunday. So got a lot going on. Everything's going well. Hope you guys are really enjoying these lessons and everything that I'm putting forth. I told you I had a really jam-packed week of lessons and material this week, so hopefully you all are enjoying it. Please continue to like, share, respond, and let's do our part to stretch the movement out. All right. I'm going to do the lesson today. I kind of debated for a while whether I was going to do it because I'm a little torn. This rabbi brother, I think it's, on the one hand, I think it's important to recognize, his contribution, at the very least, in terms of, introducing the concept, right, of Negroes or black people in America being the lost children of Israel. And once I get into, his history and you guys will see, and I will explain as I go along, why I was torn in the first place of doing doing a lesson on him. But I'm sure many of you have no idea who this brother is or who he was, because the brother passed back in the 70s. But I think it's important, like I said, in the grand scheme, to recognize, his contribution at the very least, to our movement and to our awakening, even if he was really kind of off kilter with a few of his thoughts and ideologies, and like I said, I'll kind of get into that, but I don't want to make this a lesson, appear to be against him or dissing him in any way. But you all know me, and if you don't, I got to keep it 100. At all times. You guys know that, when I present something, it's going to be authentic, and honest, and I'm going to give you the real, and you guys make up your mind, whatever it is. But, this brother, like I said, he started the first, back in 1900s, right? So, that's a long time ago, coming out talking about, black people are Israelites. Like, what? Basically the 1920s. Can you even imagine that? That's just kind of, just that alone is kind of fascinating to me, and it took almost 100 years before, basically someone else came out with another dimension of who we were, and something more, biologically concrete. And of course that would be me, Dr. Yehoshua Ben Ephraim, that came out with the DNA who the Most High raised up, and presented the DNA to our people, that we were not only not only having scriptural proof, but genetic proof that we are the quote unquote lost children of Israel, cursed to go back into slavery by way of ships. And I say that in all humbleness and in all in all meek and mildness. I'm not no spirit of arrogance on mine. But it is what it is, and I'm real big on giving recognition. I'm real big on that. And like I said, at the very least, many of you who don't know or never heard of this brother, at the very least, me doing this lesson, he gets some shine, and some on what his contribution was, to our movement. So in that spirit, let's get it. All right, here we go. Now this brother's name is Rabbi Wentworth Arthur Matthew, and he was born June 23rd. Shares a birthday with my older brother, but he was born in 1892. Brother passed away on December, they don't have the date, 1973. Now his bio goes, he was a West Indian immigrant to New York City, and he was the founder of the Israelite group called the Commandment Keepers of the Living God, a black Hebrew, quote unquote, congregation. Back in 1919 is when he started the movement. Now, I always had an issue with this whole so-called black Hebrew because, number one, when you put the connotation black in front of Hebrew, it gives the impression that Hebrew is something other than black. So you have to put that connotation in there to make it seem like it's there's something other than, like Hebrews aren't black. And like if you know, or if you are aware that the original Hebrew Israelites are black people, there's no need to put black in front of Hebrew when it should be a given that Hebrews, especially the original children of Israel, are a black people. But anyway, I digress. Now it says the Commandment Keepers, the group, Israelite group he founded, it was influenced by the Pan-Africanism and black nationalism of Marcus Garvey. And we all know Marcus Garvey is from Jamaica. Right? It said Matthew developed his congregation along Jewish lines in observance and the theory that they were returning to Judaism as the true Hebrews. He incorporated in 1930 and moved the congregation to Brooklyn. There, he founded the Israelite Rabbinical Academy, teaching and ordaining African American rabbis. His theory of black Hebrews was generally not accepted in that period by European American Jews of the Orthodox and conservative communities. No surprise there. But according to Matthew, he said at one point he was born in Lagos, Nigeria, but other sources, including his own record, say he was born in St. Kitts, British West Indies. He and his family became naturalized United States citizens. Now, before I go on with this brother's biography, and like I said, I think it's important to give him some shine, irregardless of me not agreeing with all of his ideologies and the premise of how and why he started the congregation based on. I'll get into that a little later. But his movement inspired other black, quote unquote, black Hebrew Israelite movements out in New York. Some of them known, some of them not so known. A lot of those brothers be on the corners and stuff like that. But he was the head. He started it all. He was the first. Okay, so again, that deserves some recognition, some mention, right? I'm not a petty brother at all, and I don't have to agree with everything as long as it ain't nothing way out in left field. Now I don't have to agree with every single thing that you think and believe as a black man. But if you to start a movement like that, especially back there in that time, 1919, that took some guts. That really took some guts and some courage to say, hey, you know what? This is what it is. I just wish he would have gotten inspired in a different way and not by the quote unquote Ethiopian Jews. But we'll get into that. Okay, as far as his early life and his education, it said Wentworth Arthur Matthew, he said he was born in 1892 in British West Indies. He married his wife Florence, August 29th, 1893, July 1980 is when she was born and died, and who was also from the British West Indies. They had at least 4 children together, recorded as follows in their 1927 naturalization records in the United States. Arthur, July 12th, 1917, died June 1987. Florence, born March 25th, 1920. There's no death date given for Florence, so that would seem to imply that she's still alive, which that would be, wow, pretty fascinating. Samuel E., February 20th, 1923, saying he passed June 1987. And Joseph, no death date listed for him. He was born August 24th, 1926. So yeah, if Florence and Joseph are still alive, they are, pretty old. Okay, it says in later years, Matthew sometimes said that he came from Lagos, but sometimes people say stuff throughout, whatever, for whatever reason. Maybe he was trying to make a point at a particular time. I don't know. But when he registered for selective service in 1992, he listed his place of birth as the British West Indies. So there it is there. Don't know where that Lagos, Nigeria thing came from. Maybe he was having a quick identity crisis. I mean, I don't know. It would be speculation, He says he immigrated to the United States. Matthew immigrated to New York City and arranged for his family to join him. In 1919, he founded the Commandment Keepers Congregation of the Living God in Harlem, a black Hebrew, quote-unquote, movement. He was strongly influenced by the white Jews he had met. Then when he learned about the Beta Israel of Ethiopia, see, that's what took the brother over the top. And see, that's where a lot of his ideologies came from. And see, we all know or should know that the Beta Israel of Ethiopia, it's a faulty. They're not the ones you should pattern yourself after in terms of being the children of Israel, not at all. But apparently that's what he did. And see, that's where the faulty stuff comes in, and we'll get into that. He began to identify with them, meaning the Ethiopian Jews, and I did a video on them. Okay, their DNA outs them. They are not. They are from the bloodline of Ham. Okay, they are not from Jacob. They are not Hebrew Israelites. I don't care who jumps up and down and stump their feet, whatever the case may be. Ethiopians are from Cush. Okay, they came up out of Cush from Ham. Bottom line, they're E1B1B, not E1B1A. Okay, that's just what it is. But it said he identified with them. Said he trained rabbis and who set up synagogues throughout the United States and the Caribbean. All right. It says when interviewed, many of the older members of this community recall memories of their parents observing Jewish dietary laws, such as abstaining from pork or salting their meat. So Matthew and his congregation were also strongly influenced by the Pan-African philosophy of Marcus Garvey from Jamaica and his black nationalist organization, the Universal Negro Improvement Association. It says Rabbi Arnold Josiah Ford composed the UNIA's Universal Ethiopian Anthem as its hymn. Don't see they just that whole Ethiopian thing, man. He also led the UNIA band and conducted its choir. In his theory of black Hebrews, Matthew believed that African Americans were of the original Jews descended from the lost tribes. Well, at least he got that right. He thought that white or European Jews were the descendants of the Khazar. Oh, okay. So he wasn't totally, and not in the know. But he said he thought the European Jews were descendants of the Khazars and had kept and preserved Judaism. Black Hebrews talking of regaining or returning to Judaism. Conservative and Orthodox Jews did not agree with this theory and believed that people either had to be descended directly from Jewish mothers or undergo recognized conversion under Jewish authorities to be considered Jews. Matthew eventually concluded black Jews or black Hebrews, as in his congregation, would not be accepted by the white Jewish community. Matthew's congregation followed traditional Jewish law with selective variations. Men and women were seated separately. Standard Orthodox Jewish prayer books were used, and the laws concerning Shabbat and Kashrut were observed. Matthew incorporated his congregation in 1930, and it eventually moved to Brooklyn. There he established the Israelite Rabbinical Academy, where he taught and ordained rabbis in his movement. Wentworth Matthews' teachings are followed today by many black Hebrews and black Hebrew Israelites. That's true. He did spark a lot of subgroups out of that, which have developed along different lines. Oh yeah, very different. The latter reject whites altogether. Matthew believed that blacks who converted to Judaism were not converting, but rather returning to Judaism. Matthew applied and was rejected to become a member of the New York Board of Rabbis, as he did not satisfy their rules of Jewish descent or conversion by recognized Orthodox or conservative courts. They resisted his introducing African, Caribbean, and African American practice into Jewish worship. According to a 2002 article by Rabbi Shlomo ben Levi, or Levi, also a black Hebrew, after Matthew's death in 1973, there was little connection between black Jews and white congregations in New York and elsewhere. I mean, and that shouldn't be of no surprise. I mean, he fashioned himself after the Ethiopians, and they had nothing to do ever with this movement. So that in itself is telling. That should have told him and everyone else something. He just basically was incorporating their name and everything, and they never had anything to do with that movement. As a matter of fact, you can look at the pictures and see clearly there were no Ethiopians in that organization at all. All right. But it said the commandment keepers believe that they are the descendants of King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. See, Matthew taught that the black man is a Jew and all genuine Jews are black men, but he valued non-black Jews as those who preserved Judaism over the centuries. And see, that's where he fell off for me with that whole, see, that whole King of Solomon, Queen of Sheba thing. That's some Ethiopian madness. Okay, I've dealt with that extensively. There was no child from King Solomon and Queen of Sheba. That is a lie. Okay, if there was a child of Queen of Sheba, see that what that says, what that implies is that if King Solomon had a son with Queen of Sheba, that would mean that he was in the line of King David. Basically, he was that child would be the yeah, in the Davidian line. That did not happen. If King Solomon and Queen of Sheba had a child, that child's birth would have been in Torah. Okay, we all know the Most High did not play when it comes to the lineage of the children of Israel, especially as it relates to the King David line. Okay, that's a lie. That's a lie that they've been regurgitating for years. And so for this brother to believe and regurgitate and perpetuate that lie, it's just it's a little disheartening, but again, I'm not here to judge him or whatever like that. From what I'm reading, he wasn't totally off the mark, but adopting practices and ideologies from a group that was not are not from the seed of Jacob, that's not a good thing, and that can never ever be a good thing. So it's kind of like the blind leading the blind in that sense. But they said he maintained cordial ties with non-black Jewish leaders in New York and frequently invited them to worship at his synagogue, right? And so he said Matthew established the Ethiopian Hebrew Rabbinical College, later renamed the Israelite Rabbinical Academy in Brooklyn. He ordained more than 20 rabbis who went on to lead congregations throughout the United States and the Caribbean. He remained the leader of the Commandment Keepers in Harlem, and in 1962, the congregation moved to a landmark building on 123rd Street. Matthew died in 1973. Give me 1 second. Yeah, it said Matthew died in 1973, sparking an internal conflict over who would succeed him as head of the Harlem congregation. Isn't it always like that? It's a shame. A leader or someone dies and then chaos ensues. There shouldn't be that way ever. I mean, there should always be something in place that, God forbid, if a leader dies, it should be a known thing who's going to take over in any event of that happening. And it says here, that's what he did. It says shortly before his death, Matthew named his grandson, David Matthew Dore, as the new spiritual leader. But see, Dore was 16 years old at the time. In 1975, the synagogue's board elected Rabbi Willie White to be its leader. Rabbi Dore occasionally conducted services at the synagogue until the early 1980s, when White had Dore and some other members locked out of the building. See, there we go. That's the madness. Membership declined throughout the 90s, and by 2004, only a few dozen people belonged to the synagogue. Wow. In 2007, the Commandment Keepers sold the building, while various factions among former members sued one another. Beside the Harlem group, there are 8 or 10 Commandment Keeper congregations in the New York area and others throughout North America and in Israel. Since 2000, 7 rabbis have graduated from the Israelite Rabbinical Academy founded by Matthew. That's pretty cool. And it's a shame how it kind of ended. But for the intentions of his heart, I give him props. And again, this isn't to judge him in any kind of way. Yeah, I mean, I voiced what I felt about the whole Ethiopian thing, but it appears that the brother had a good heart. So I just wanted to kind of give him some shine, and I'm pretty sure many of you never heard of this brother, and he never was recognized as a rabbi by the racist class at the time, so-called European converted Jews. The irony of their and audacity of their arrogance not to recognize somebody. Like, who are they not to recognize anyone? But yeah, shout out to that brother, man, for at least having the wherewithal to bring the Israelite thought and the concept forward, especially at a time when I'm pretty sure it was extremely unpopular back in the 1920s. So shout out to that brother, and And peace and blessings to all of his family members that are still alive, his ancestors and his supporters. So on that note, hope you all enjoyed the lesson. This is Dr. Ephraim signing off, saying Ahaya by Yeshim, Yeshua HaMashiach, Baruch Atah Adonai, for now and forever. Shalom, elect.